The massive alien ships came out of nowhere. One moment the space around Earth was empty and quiet. The next moment 1,000 giant warships appeared like dark clouds blocking out the stars. Admiral Krikstal stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking down at the small blue planet below. His 6 eyes gleamed with satisfaction. Another world to conquer. Another species to crush under the might of the Valonian Empire. For 3,000 years, his people had swept across the galaxy like a terrible storm. Every race they met either surrendered quickly or died fighting uselessly. Such a pretty little world, Krikstal said to his officers. It will make a good colony once we remove the natives. The Valonians had studied this planet they called Earth for many cycles. The humans living there seemed weak and divided. They fought among themselves constantly. Their technology was basic. Their weapons were crude. This would be easier than most conquests. On Earth, Captain Dae-hyun Kim was having the worst day of his life. He stood in the command center of the Terran Defense Force, staring at the screens that showed the alien fleet above them. 1,000 ships, each one bigger than anything humans had ever built. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," reported Lieutenant Nari Park, her voice shaking. "Put it through," Dae-hyun ordered. The screen filled with the image of Admiral Krikstal. The alien looked like a nightmare, tall, covered in dark scales with too many teeth and eyes that burned with cruelty. "Humans of Earth," the alien said in perfect English. "I am Admiral Krikstal of the Valonian Empire. Your world now belongs to us. You have 72 of your hours to surrender completely. Lay down all weapons. Prepare your leaders for transport to our ships. Any resistance will result in the complete destruction of your species." The transmission ended. Silence filled the command center. "Sir," whispered Lieutenant Nari. "What do we do?" Dae-hyun looked around the room at his officers. These were good people, brave people, but they had never faced anything like this before. None of them had. "Get me Commander Bo-Ra Lee," he said quietly. 30 minutes later, Bo-Ra Lee sat across from Dae-hyun in a secure briefing room. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a mind like a steel trap. As Earth's chief military strategist, she had spent years planning for conflicts that might never come. "Well?" Dae-hyun asked. Bo-Ra smiled. It was not a happy smile. "They have no idea what they're dealing with. Explain. These Valonians think we're helpless primitives. They expect us to panic and surrender like every other species they've conquered. They're wrong." Bo-Ra activated a holographic display. It showed the alien fleet in detail. Their positions, their weapon signatures, their shield frequencies. "We've been watching them since they entered our solar system 12 hours ago," she said. "They're using standard formation patterns. Their shields operate on predictable frequencies. Their weapons charge in regular cycles. They're not even trying to hide their capabilities because they think we're too stupid to understand them." Dae-hyun frowned. "But we are outgunned 1,000 to 1. "Are we?" Bo-Ra asked. She touched another control. The display changed to show Earth's orbital defense platforms. "Our public records show 50 active defense ships and 200 orbital weapons platforms. That's what the aliens see when they scan us." "That's what we have," Dae-hyun said. Bo-Ra's smile grew wider. "That's what we want them to think we have." She pressed another button. The display exploded with new contacts. Ships that had been invisible moments before suddenly appeared on the screen. Sleek, deadly-looking vessels that seemed to bend light around themselves. "Meet the Ghost Protocol fleet," Bo-Ra said. 12 ships that don't officially exist. Captain Jamin Park has been waiting 15 years for this moment. Dae-hyun stared at the display. 15 years? The Morden scout ship that crashed in the Pacific wasn't our first contact with aliens, Captain. It was our first capture of alien technology. We've been preparing for this day ever since. High above Earth, the Valonian fleet waited with casual arrogance. Admiral Krikstal watched as primitive human ships began to emerge from the planet's gravity well. 50 small vessels against his 1,000 mighty warships. Some of his officers actually laughed. "They're bringing their entire fleet to surrender to us," said Commander Vextar. How thoughtful. No, Admiral Krixtal corrected. They're bringing their entire fleet to die heroically. Some species do that, it makes them feel better about their defeat. The human ships moved slowly toward the alien fleet. They looked pathetic compared to the massive Valonian dreadnoughts. Each alien ship was the size of a human city. Their weapons could crack planets in half. Their shields could stop anything. The humans might throw at them. Captain Jamin Park sat quietly in the command chair of his ship, the Invisible Sword. Around him, his crew worked with calm efficiency. They had trained for this moment for 15 years. Every simulation, every drill, every test had led to this. All ghost ships report ready, said his tactical officer, Lieutenant Commander Hyojin Nam. Alien fleet is holding position, reported Navigator Wu Jin Lee. They're not even scanning us properly. They think we're not worth the effort. Jamin smiled. The aliens would learn. They would learn what it meant to underestimate humanity. Signal the fleet, he ordered. Execute ghost protocol on my mark. Below them, the 50 decoy ships continued their slow approach toward the alien fleet. The Valonians watched with amusement as the humans came closer and closer to their doom. Admiral Krixtal was already composing his victory message to the Empire when his sensor officer suddenly screamed. Sir, new contacts, 12 ships decloaking behind us. The Admiral spun around to see his worst nightmare. 12 human ships had appeared out of nowhere, right in the middle of his fleet's rear formations. Ships that his sensors had never detected. Ships that shouldn't exist. Impossible, he whispered. Captain Jamin Park's voice came over the communication channels, speaking calmly in perfect Valonian. Admiral Krixtal, this is Captain Park of the Terran Defense Force. You said we had 72 hours to surrender. We've decided to make you a counteroffer. You have 30 seconds to begin withdrawing from our system, or we will show you why humans are the most dangerous species in the galaxy. You're bluffing, Krixtal snarled. 12 ships against 1,000. 29 seconds, Jamin said calmly. Krixtal looked around his bridge. His officers stared back at him, waiting for orders. Behind them, the 12 human ships hung in space like sleeping predators. Fire on those human ships, he ordered. 28 seconds, came the human captain's voice. The Valonian weapons opened fire. Energy beams that could vaporize asteroids lanced out toward the human ships. The beams passed harmlessly through empty space. The human ships were gone. Where are they? Krixtal screamed. His answer came in the form of explosions throughout his fleet as the human ships began their attack from impossible angles, using weapons that shouldn't exist, fighting in ways that defied everything the Valonians thought they knew about warfare. The real battle was about to begin. The Valonian fleet burned in the darkness of space. Captain Jamin Park watched from the bridge of his ship as alien vessels exploded one after another. His 12 Ghost Protocol ships moved through the enemy fleet like deadly spirits, appearing and disappearing faster than the aliens could track them. Target their command ship, he ordered Lieutenant Commander Hyojin Nam. We need Admiral Krixtal alive. Yes, sir. Weapons locked on their bridge tower. The Invisible Sword fired a single shot. The beam cut through the Valonian flagship's shields like they were made of paper. The blast took out the ship's weapon systems, but left the command center intact. Admiral Krixtal pulled himself up from the floor of his bridge. Half his officers were unconscious. The other half stared in shock at their dead instruments. How? He whispered. How did they penetrate our shields? On Earth, Commander Bora Lee smiled as she watched the battle from the hidden command center buried deep under the Korean mountains. Around her, dozens of officers coordinated the attack with cold precision. The aliens are trying to adapt, reported Major Sungmin Choi from his station. They're rotating their shield frequencies. It won't help them, Bora said. Our weapons learn faster than they can change. She was right. The human plasma cannons studied each shield they hit, analyzed its structure in microseconds, then adapted their energy patterns to bypass it completely. Technology that had taken the Valonians centuries to develop was being turned against them by weapons that evolved in real time. Captain Sojin Han commanded one of the ghost ships attacking the alien fleet's eastern flank. Her ship, The silent death phased through the hull of a Valonian cruiser like it was made of smoke. Beginning boarding action, she reported to the fleet command. Lieutenant Colonel Sung-Ho Choi led the human boarding party into the alien ship. His soldiers moved through the corridors like shadows, their adaptive armor shifting color to match their surroundings. The Valonians never saw them coming. "Secure the engine room," Sung-Ho ordered through his comm system. "Teams 2 and 3, take the bridge. Team 4, find their computer core." The aliens fought desperately, but they had never faced humans in close combat before. Sung-Ho's soldiers were faster, smarter, and more ruthless than anything the Valonians had encountered. Within minutes, the alien ship belonged to Earth. "Engine room secured," reported Sergeant Jin A. Kim. "Their fusion reactors are ours." "Bridge captured," added Corporal Min-Ho Park. "Alien crew is neutralized." But the real surprise came from Team 4. "Colonel," called Specialist Yesol Lee from the computer core, "you need to see this. I'm downloading their entire weapons database." Sung-Ho watched in amazement as human-designed computer viruses raced through the alien systems. The viruses didn't just copy information, they learned from it, improved upon it, and then sent the upgraded data back to the human fleet. "Command," he reported to Bora Lee, "we're not just capturing their ships, we're stealing their technology and making it better." "Excellent," Bora replied. "Continue the operation." Admiral Crixtal watched his mighty fleet fall apart around him. Ship after ship was either destroyed or captured by the impossible human vessels. His 1,000-ship armada was being torn to pieces by 12 ships that shouldn't exist. "Sir," gasped his communications officer, "the humans are using our own weapons against us." It was true. The captured Valonian ships had turned their guns on their former allies. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was that the human-controlled weapons were firing faster, hitting harder and cutting through shields that should have stopped them. "They're modifying our technology," whispered his science officer. "In real time during battle, that's impossible." "Nothing is impossible for humans," came a voice from behind them. Admiral Crixtal spun around to see a figure in dark armor standing on his bridge. The human had somehow gotten aboard his ship without triggering a single alarm. "I am Lieutenant Colonel Sung-Ho Choi," the human said calmly. "And you, Admiral, are now my prisoner." "Impossible," Crixtal snarled. "My ship's shields were still active. How did you get through them?" Sung-Ho smiled coldly. "We've been studying your technology for 15 years. Your shields, your weapons, your ships. We know them better than you do." The alien admiral stared at the human in growing horror. 15 years? But first contact was today. First contact was 15 years ago, Sung-Ho corrected, when the Mordan scout ship crashed in our ocean. We've been watching the galaxy ever since, learning about every species, every empire, every threat. More human soldiers phased through the walls of the bridge. The Valonian crew raised their weapons, but the humans were too fast. In seconds, every alien on the bridge was unconscious except for the admiral. "You're not primitives," Crixtal whispered. "No," Sung-Ho agreed. "We're apex predators and you just walked into our hunting ground." Back on Earth, Bora Lee received reports from all across the battlefield. The Ghost Protocol fleet had captured or destroyed over 800 alien ships in less than 2 hours. The remaining Valonian vessels were retreating in panic. "Should we pursue?" asked Major Sung-Min Choi. "No," Bora said. "Let them go. Let them tell the galaxy what happened here." Captain Jamin Park's ship pulled alongside the captured Valonian flagship. Through the viewport, he could see Admiral Crixtal being escorted to the prison cells by human soldiers. "All ghost ships report status," he ordered. "Silent death operational. No damage," reported Captain Sojin Han. "Shadow strike ready for next mission," added Captain Tae-Young Kim. One by one, all 12 ships reported in. Not a single human vessel had been seriously damaged. Not a single human soldier had been lost. "Incredible," whispered Navigator Wu Jinli. "We just defeated a 1,000-ship fleet with 12 ships." "Not we," Jae-min corrected. "Humanity. Every human who worked on this project for the past 15 years. Every scientist who studied alien technology, every engineer who built these ships, every soldier who trained for this day. He looked out at the burning wrecks of the Valonian fleet, floating in space around them. And this is just the beginning. Admiral Crixtal sat in his prison cell aboard the human ship, staring at the walls that seemed to be made of some impossible material that shifted and flowed like liquid metal. A human guard stood outside his cell, a young woman who couldn't be more than 20 years old. "You," he called to her. "What is your name?" "Corporal Yun Young Seo," she replied politely. "How long have your people been preparing for war?" Yun Young smiled. "We've been preparing for war since the first human picked up a rock to defend himself from a predator. We just got better weapons recently. The galaxy will come for you," Crixtal warned. "Every empire, every species, they will unite against the human threat." "Yes," Yun Young agreed. "They probably will." "And you're not afraid?" The young corporal looked at the alien admiral with something that might have been pity. "Admiral, you just brought 1,000 of your best ships to attack our home world. We destroyed most of them and captured the rest without losing a single vessel. Does that sound like we should be afraid?" Crixtal had no answer. 12 of the surviving Valonian ships limped away from Earth, carrying the terrified survivors back to their empire. As they fled, they sent desperate messages across the galaxy. "The humans are not what they seem," the messages said. "They are not primitives. They are not weak. They have been watching us, learning from us, preparing for us." Earth's first response was just a warning. The true force is still coming. But across the galaxy, most alien species dismissed these reports as the ravings of defeated cowards. Surely no primitive species could defeat the mighty Valonian Empire so easily. They would learn the truth soon enough. The news traveled across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. The mighty Valonian Empire's third conquest fleet, 1,000 of their most powerful warships, had been destroyed by a primitive species called humans. Most alien governments refused to believe it. The Valonians had conquered dozens of worlds. Their technology was proven. Their military was unstoppable. But the evidence was impossible to ignore. Admiral Hyun-Woo Yoon stood before the emergency session of the Galactic Council on the neutral world of Nexus Prime. Around him, representatives from hundreds of species whispered nervously in their seats. The Great Chamber had never seen so many world leaders gathered in one place. "Honored delegates," Hyun-Woo said calmly, "I am Admiral Yoon of the Terran Confederation. I come before you today to deliver a simple message from humanity." The chamber fell silent. This was the first time a human had ever addressed the Galactic Council. Most species had assumed humans didn't even know the council existed. "The destruction of the Valonian fleet was accomplished by our local defense forces," Hyun-Woo continued. "This represents a small fraction of our actual military capability." Chancellor Vexara of the Zephyrian Dominion stood up from her seat. Her blue skin was pale with fear, but she tried to sound brave. "You expect us to believe that your primitive species defeated our most powerful neighbors?" Hyun-Woo smiled politely. "I don't expect you to believe anything, Chancellor. I expect you to listen to what I'm about to tell you." He gestured to Ambassador Yoonji Kwon, who stepped forward carrying a datapad. Yoonji was a small, quiet woman who looked harmless. The aliens would soon learn that looks could be very deceiving. "For the past 15 years, Yoonji said, humanity has maintained active intelligence operations throughout the galaxy. We have monitored your communications, studied your military capabilities, and established research stations in 17-star systems." The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Representatives jumped to their feet, shouting questions and denials. "Impossible," roared General Thakmor of the Korvashi Empire. "We would have detected any primitive spies." Yoonji touched her datapad. The chamber's main display screen activated, showing surveillance footage of a Korvashi military base. The footage showed Korvashi soldiers conducting training exercises with their most advanced weapons. "This was recorded last week at your secret training facility on Korvash 7, Yoonji said calmly. "The facility that officially doesn't exist." General Takmor's forearms trembled with rage. How did you get this footage? The same way we got this, Yunji replied. The screen changed to show the interior of what looked like a government meeting room. Chancellor Vexara was clearly visible, discussing battle plans with her military advisors. This is from your private strategy session 3 days ago, Chancellor, Yunji said. You were discussing how to respond to the human threat. Chancellor, Vexara sank back into her seat, her blue face turning even paler. Or this, Yunji continued. Now the screen showed recorded conversations between different alien governments, secret treaties, private communications, military assessments, trade agreements. For 15 years, humanity had been listening to everything. You've been watching us, whispered Ambassador Zilkar of the Mordan Republic. All of us. For 15 years. Yes, Yunji confirmed. While you ignored our primitive world, we were studying your civilizations, learning your languages, and mapping your territories. Captain So Young Kim stepped forward. She was young for a starship captain, but her eyes held the cold confidence of someone who had seen real combat. We know the exact specifications of every warship in your fleets, she said. We know your battle tactics, your communication codes, and your supply routes. We know which of your colonies are well defended and which ones are vulnerable. Impossible, General Thakmor said again, but his voice was weaker now. So Young touched a control on her wrist. The display screen filled with technical diagrams of Korvashi ships, complete with detailed analysis of their weapons, shields, and weaknesses. Your Empire's newest dreadnought, the World Breaker, she said. Construction was completed 6 months ago. Its primary weakness is a thermal exhaust port located exactly here. A red target appeared on the diagram. A single shot from our weapons could destroy the entire ship. General Thakmor looked sick. We have similar analysis for every ship and every fleet belonging to every species in this chamber, So Young continued. We know you better than you know yourselves. General Wansik Bey walked to the center of the chamber. He was an older man, with gray hair and scars on his face from battles the aliens couldn't imagine. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of someone who had commanded armies. The force that destroyed the Valonian fleet, he said slowly, represented exactly 0.3% of humanity's actual military capability. The chamber was absolutely silent now. We have been preparing for this day for 15 years, Wansik continued. Every species that ignored us gave us more time to build our forces. Every government that dismissed us as primitive helped us remain undetected while we grew stronger. Preparing for what? Chancellor Vexara whispered. Admiral. Yunwu stepped forward again. His friendly smile was gone, replaced by the cold expression of a predator. For you, he said simply. All of you. The alien representative stared at him in growing horror. Every species in this galaxy has made the same mistake, Hyunwoo continued. You assumed that because we seemed weak, we actually were weak. You thought that because we stayed on one world, we were trapped there. You believed that because we fought among ourselves, we couldn't unite against a common enemy. You were wrong about all of it. Ambassador Torval of the Hegemony Union found his voice. What do you want from us? Nothing, Hyunwoo replied. We're simply informing you that the galaxy has changed. The age of your empires is over. The age of humanity has begun. We will not surrender to primitives, General Thakmor roared, standing up from his seat. Then you will learn why the Valonians called us the most dangerous species in the galaxy, Admiral Hyunwoo said calmly. The chamber erupted into chaos as representatives began shouting at each other, forming alliances, planning strategies. Some species wanted to surrender immediately. Others called for total war against humanity. But Captain So Young Kim was watching something else entirely. She was watching the security feeds from around the chamber, the orbital scans of the space around. Nexus Prime, the communication traffic flowing between the alien ships. Admiral, she whispered to Hyunwoo, they're already mobilizing their fleets. Of course they are, Hyunwoo replied. We expected this. All of them? So Young asked. Even species that have been enemies for centuries? Fear makes strange allies, Hyunwoo said. They'll put aside their differences long enough to try to destroy us. So Young smiled grimly. Should I tell them it won't work? No, Hyunwoo said. Let them discover it for themselves. 1 week later, the largest military alliance in galactic history was formed. 8 major empires representing thousands of worlds and tens of thousands of warships united with a single purpose: destroy humanity before it could spread beyond the Sol system. The Zephyrian Dominion contributed their fastest ships. The Corvashi Empire brought their planet-killer dreadnoughts. The Hegemony Union provided their most advanced weapons. Even the proud Mordan Republic joined the alliance, despite their usual policy of neutrality. 10,000 ships from 8 different species began their journey toward Earth. The largest invasion fleet ever assembled in the galaxy's history, Admiral Krixtal, still imprisoned aboard the human ship, heard about the alliance from his guards. 10,000 ships, he told Corporal Yoon-Young Seo. Your people are doomed. Yoon-Young looked at the alien admiral with something that might have been pity. Admiral, she said gently, you still don't understand what you're dealing with, do you? 10,000 ships against your 50 vessels, Krixtal insisted. 50? Yoon-Young laughed. Admiral, those 50 ships were just our local patrol. The real fleet is still waiting. Impossible, Krixtal whispered. You keep using that word, Yoon-Young said. I don't think it means what you think it means. She walked away, leaving the alien admiral alone with his thoughts and his growing fear. Above Earth, something was stirring in the darkness between the stars. Something vast and terrible and patient. The galaxy's greatest alliance was coming to destroy humanity. They had no idea what was waiting for them. 6 months after the Galactic Alliance was formed, 10,000 alien warships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. The largest military force in galactic history had come to destroy humanity once and for all. Admiral Zexandra of the Zephyrian Dominion commanded the Alliance fleet from her flagship, the Stellar Annihilator. Around her, representatives from 7 other species watched the tactical displays with grim satisfaction. There, she said, pointing at the small, blue world in the distance. That insignificant planet has caused enough trouble. Today we end the human threat forever. General Takmor of the Corvashi Empire nodded his 4 massive heads. My planet-killer dreadnoughts will crack their world like an egg. These humans will learn what happens to species that challenge their betters. But as the Alliance fleet moved deeper into the Sol system, they began to detect something that made their confidence fade. Energy signatures. Massive ones. Coming from everywhere at once. Admiral, reported Captain Veltar from his sensor station, I'm reading multiple contacts throughout the system. Thousands of them. Impossible, Admiral Zexandra said. Our intelligence reports said they had less than 100 ships total. The worm. First human vessels began to decloak. Fleet Admiral Min Ji-han stood on the bridge of the TNS Indomitable, flagship of humanity's true military force. Around her, spread across the entire solar system like a vast net, 15,000 human warships materialized out of empty space. Each ship was larger than the vessels that had destroyed the Valonian fleet. Each one was armed with weapons that made the Ghost Protocol ships look primitive. Each one carried enough firepower to crack a moon in half. My God, whispered Commander Hyukjin of the Hegemony Union as he stared at the tactical displays. Where did they all come from? His answer came from Captain Tae-hyun Jang, commander of the Experimental Dragon Squadron. His 12 ships appeared, directly in front of the alien fleet, their hulls glowing with barely contained energy. Greetings, Tae-hyun said over the communication channels. I am Captain Jang of the Terran Confederation Navy. Welcome to our solar system. You are now completely surrounded. Admiral Zexandra looked at her tactical displays in growing horror. The human ships weren't just scattered randomly through space. They were positioned in perfect formation, covering every possible escape route, every angle of attack. How many ships do they have? She whispered. 15,000 confirmed contacts. Her sensor officer reported, and they're still decloaking. General Thakmor activated his communication system. Humans, You are outnumbered 10 to 15. Surrender now and we will make your deaths quick. Captain Taehyun's laughter echoed across the communication channels. General, you seem to have made an error in your mathematics. Let me help you understand the actual situation. The space around the Dragon Squadron began to shimmer. Reality seemed to bend and twist as the human ships activated their experimental drives. The ships phased in and out of normal space, appearing in multiple locations at once. Our ships don't just move through space, General, Taehyun explained. They move through dimensions. Each of my vessels can exist in 17 different locations simultaneously. Impossible, General Thakmor growled. Your favorite word, Taehyun replied. You're about to learn why humans stopped believing in impossible things. The Dragon Squadron opened fire. Their weapons weren't energy beams or particle cannons. They were something far worse. The human ships fired controlled tears in space-time itself, creating gravitational anomalies that crushed alien vessels like tin cans. Colonel Yejin Moon watched from her command ship as her combat drones were released into space. Each drone was the size of a small fighter, but they had one terrifying capability. They could consume enemy ships and turn the raw materials into more drones. Deploy the swarm, she ordered. Millions of tiny drones poured out of the human ships, like angry insects. They fell upon the alien fleet with mechanical hunger, tearing apart hulls and consuming everything they touched. Within minutes, destroyed alien vessels were being rebuilt as new human drones. They're turning our ships against us, screamed Captain Mordak of the Morden Republic. The drones are using our own materials. But the real horror came when the Alliance fleet tried to fight back. Commander Jin Woo Kang had spent 15 years studying every weapon system used by every species in the galaxy. Now his electronic warfare ships proved just how well humanity had learned its lessons. Activate the null field, he ordered. The alien weapons simply stopped working. Energy beams flickered and died. Missile systems shut down. Even their basic ship functions began to fail as human computer viruses infected their systems faster than they could adapt. Our weapons are useless, Admiral Zexandra whispered. They've turned our own technology against us. Fleet Admiral Minji, Han's voice echoed across every communication channel in both fleets. You came here to destroy us because you were afraid, she said. You were right to be afraid, but not for the reasons you think. You feared us because we seemed dangerous. The truth is far worse than your fears. We are not dangerous because we want to hurt you. We are dangerous because we are better than you at everything you thought made you strong. She gestured to Captain Dongsu Lim, whose science ships had been analyzing the alien fleet since the moment they arrived. Your shields, Dongsu announced, operate on a frequency we learned to bypass 8 years ago. Your weapons use energy patterns we've been studying since our first contact with the Mordens. Your ship designs are based on principles we've already improved upon. You're not fighting our equals, Minji continued. You're fighting your replacements. The battle that followed wasn't really a battle at all. It was a demonstration, human. Ships phased through solid matter, making them impossible to hit. Human weapons ignored every defense the aliens possessed. Human drones multiplied exponentially, creating an endless swarm that consumed everything in their path. Within 2 hours, half the Alliance fleet was destroyed or captured. The survivors began to retreat in panic, but they quickly discovered that the human ships were faster than anything they had ever seen. There's no escape, reported Captain Yulvan of the Zephyrian Dominion. They're everywhere. They're in front of us, behind us, above us, below us. They're moving through space like they own it. They do own it, Admiral Zexandra said quietly. We just never realized it. But the final revelation came from the most unexpected source. Captain Do-Yeon Park, commanding the human vessel Eternal Vigilance, opened a communication channel to every surviving alien ship. This battle is over, she announced. But before you retreat back to your worlds to report your defeat, there is one more thing you need to know. The tactical displays throughout the alien fleet suddenly changed, showing star maps of the entire galaxy. Red dots appeared on thousands of worlds, marking human colonies that had been established in secret over the past 30 years. While you were building your alliance, Do-Yeon said calmly, we were building an empire. Human colonies exist on 400 worlds in 60 star systems. We are not confined to this solar system. We never were. The alien commanders stared at the displays in absolute horror. Every world you thought was uninhabitable, we colonized. Every star system you ignored because it seemed worthless, we claimed. Every empty region of space you dismissed, we filled with our people. You didn't come here to destroy a single world, Duyan continued. You came here to fight an empire that already surrounds you. Admiral Zexandra looked at the star map showing human colonies spread across the galaxy like a vast web. Colonies that had been there for decades, invisible and undetected. How? She whispered. Fleet Admiral Minji Han provided the answer. We are very good at hiding, she said. We are very good at learning, and we are very good at war. While you spent centuries fighting each other over territory, we spent decades preparing for the day when we would take all of it. The surviving alien ships fled the Sol system, carrying news that would change the galaxy forever. Behind them, 15,000 human warships waited patiently in the darkness. Captain Taehyun Jang stood on his bridge, watching the last alien vessels disappear into hyperspace. Think they've learned their lesson? Asked his tactical officer. No, Taehyun replied, but they will. The galaxy was about to discover that Earth's first response had indeed been just a warning. The true force had revealed itself at last. The survivors of the Great Alliance fleet limped back to their homeworlds carrying news that would reshape galactic civilization forever. Of the 10,000 ships that had attacked Earth, fewer than 2,000 returned. The rest had been destroyed or captured by a human force that seemed to command powers beyond imagination. Captain Do-Yeon Park, of the human vessel, Eternal Vigilance followed the retreating aliens at a respectful distance, making sure her message reached every corner of the galaxy. Her ship moved alongside the fleeing vessels like a patient shepherd, guiding frightened animals. This is Captain Park of the Terran Confederation, she broadcast on all frequencies. To ensure there are no misunderstandings about what happened, today I will personally escort your survivors home. Consider this a gesture of goodwill from humanity. Admiral Zexandra sat in her damaged command chair, watching the human ship through her viewport. The Eternal Vigilance was smaller than her flagship, but she now knew that size meant nothing when it came to human vessels. That single ship could probably destroy her entire remaining fleet if it chose to. Captain Park, she said over the communication system, why are you allowing us to leave? Tuyen's voice came back calm and friendly. Because we want you to tell everyone what you saw here today. Every species, every government, every world. They need to understand what they're dealing with. 3 weeks later, the Galactic Council convened another emergency session. This time, the Great Chamber was only half full. Many species had refused to attend, too frightened to face whatever new revelations humanity might share. Ambassador Jae-Sung-Oh walked to the center of the chamber with the confidence of someone representing the galaxy's dominant power. Behind him, clearly visible through the chamber's massive windows, waited the human Second Fleet. 8,000 ships hung in orbit around Nexus Prime, having appeared in the system without anyone detecting their approach. Honored delegates, Jae-Sung said politely, I come before you today with news that will affect every world in the galaxy. Chancellor Vexara of the Zephyrian Dominion looked older than she had a month ago. The defeat of the Alliance fleet had aged her considerably. What more can you possibly tell us? She asked wearily. We know you're stronger than us. We know you've been watching us. We know you have colonies throughout the galaxy. What else is there? Jae-Sung smiled. The truth about how long we've been your neighbors. He gestured to Director Haewon Chang of Human Intelligence, who stepped forward carrying a data pad that would change everything. For 30 years, Haewon said, human colonies have existed throughout the galaxy, but we haven't just been hiding on empty worlds. We've been living among you. The chamber fell silent. Human traders have been buying and selling goods in your markets for 2 decades. Human diplomats have been working in your governments for 15 years. Human scientists have been studying in your universities for a decade. The display screens around the chamber activated, showing footage of humans living and working on dozens of alien worlds. Humans who had been there for years, completely unnoticed by the native populations. "This is impossible," whispered General Thakmore. "We would have detected alien infiltrators." "You did detect us," Haiwan replied. "You just didn't know we were aliens." The screen changed to show identification records, birth certificates, and citizenship papers. All forgeries, but perfect ones. Humans who had been living as citizens of alien worlds for years, completely integrated into their societies. The human colony on Zephyria Prime has been there for 12 years. Haiwan continued. The humans living in the Korvashi capital city have been there for 8 years. The human research station in the Hegemony Union has been operating for 6 years. "You've been spying on us from inside our own governments," Chancellor Vexara said in horror. "No," Jae-sung corrected. "We've been living with you, working with you. Some of our people have even married your people and started families." Ambassador Torval of the Hegemony Union stood up on shaking legs. "How many? How many humans are living in our territories?" 6 million, Haiwan said calmly. "Spread across 400 worlds in 60 star systems, most of them in plain sight, living normal lives as productive members of your societies." The chamber erupted in panicked voices as representatives realized the full scope of human infiltration. Humans weren't just on the empty worlds the aliens had ignored. They were everywhere, integrated into the very fabric of galactic civilization. Admiral Seokjin Yu stepped forward to deliver the final revelation. "At this moment," he announced, "human ships are decloaking in 12 major star systems across the galaxy." The display screens showed real-time footage from around the galaxy. In system after system, human fleets were revealing themselves, emerging from hiding places they had occupied for years. The message was clear. Humanity was already everywhere, and they had been watching everything. "We didn't conquer the galaxy," Seokjin said. "We joined it. We became part of it. We've been your neighbors, your colleagues, your friends for decades. The only difference is that now you know who we really are." Captain Min Seo-jung of the 3rd Scout Fleet provided the final piece of the puzzle. "Every alien species that dismissed us as primitive helped us remain undetected," she said. "Every government that ignored our backward world gave us more time to establish ourselves in yours. Every empire that underestimated us contributed to our success. You didn't lose a war to humanity," she continued. "You lost a war to an opponent that was already living in your house." The truth was devastating in its simplicity. While the great alien empires had been fighting each other over territory and resources, humanity had quietly and peacefully spread throughout the galaxy. They hadn't conquered worlds through military force. They had simply moved in and made themselves at home. "What do you want?" Chancellor Vexara asked in a broken voice. Fleet Admiral Min Ji-han materialized as a hologram in the center of the chamber. Her image was being broadcast from Earth, but her presence filled the room with authority. "We want to continue being your neighbors," she said simply. "We want to keep trading in your markets, studying in your universities, and living in your cities. The only difference is that now it will be official." "And if we refuse?" General Thakmore growled. Minji's expression didn't change. "Then you will learn why the Galactic Alliance's invasion fleet was just the beginning of your problems, not the end of them." The chamber windows dimmed as the human 2nd Fleet moved closer to the station. 8,000 ships, each one capable of destroying a planet, hung in the darkness like sleeping giants. "The choice is simple," Minji continued. "Accept humanity as an equal partner in galactic civilization, or try to fight a war against an enemy that already lives on your worlds, works in your governments, and knows your every secret. This is your choice. Coexistence or conquest, peace or war, partnership or domination. Choose wisely." 1 year later, the Terran Confederation was officially recognized as the galaxy's newest major power. The Galactic Accords were signed in Dalryu, a ceremony attended by representatives from every known species. President Kyung-ho Nam signed the documents that made humanity an official member of galactic civilization. Around him, former enemies became reluctant allies, united by their shared knowledge that resistance was pointless. Fleet Admiral Min Ji-han watched the ceremony from the observation deck of the new Terran embassy. a massive space station that had been constructed in orbit around Nexus Prime. The station served as both a diplomatic center and a not-so-subtle reminder of human military power. "Think it will work?" asked Admiral Hyun Woo-yoon, joining her at the viewport. "For now," Min-ji replied. "They're too afraid to cause trouble and too proud to surrender completely. It's a delicate balance." And later, Min-ji smiled as she watched. Human ships moving freely through space that had once been forbidden to their species. Later, their children will grow up in a galaxy where humans have always been there. They'll learn to see us as neighbors instead of invaders. Time heals most wounds, even wounded pride. Admiral Krixtal was finally released from prison as part of the peace agreement. He returned to what remained of the Valonian Empire, now a client state of the Terran Confederation. On his first day back, he received a visit from Corporal Yoon Young Seo, now promoted to captain. She came to his office carrying a bottle of human alcohol as a peace offering. "I wanted to thank you, Admiral," she said, pouring 2 glasses. "Thank me? For what?" "For helping us prove to the galaxy what we're capable of," Yoon Young replied. "Your attack gave us the excuse we needed to reveal our true strength." Krixtal accepted the drink with trembling hands. "You planned all of this, didn't you? From the very beginning." Yoon Young smiled. "Admiral, humanity has been planning for this moment since we first looked up at the stars and wondered what was out there. We just had to wait for the right opportunity to show the galaxy who we really are." She raised her glass in a toast. "To new beginnings." Krixtal raised his own glass reluctantly. "To humanity," he said quietly. "The species that turned the galaxy upside down without anyone noticing." As the 2 former enemies drank together, human ships continued their patrols throughout the galaxy, maintaining peace through the simple knowledge that Earth's first response had indeed been just a warning.